Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this next video lesson. We're going to continue talking about math functions, and so let me go ahead and create a new project. What I'm thinking about doing is, first of all, Visual C#, Windows Forms application, and let me go ahead and type in C#, sorry about that, and this will be math functions, and we'll say number 2 for part 2. What I'm thinking about doing is to create a program that allows me to enter the side A and side B of a right triangle, and then we're going to solve for the hypotenuse, which is that long side. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this image. I just went to Google and typed in Pythagorean triangle, and I'm going to take this image and I want to bring that into my program. That way the user can see clearly that if I enter side A and side B, click a button to calculate the hypotenuse, they know exactly what's going on. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is to drag and drop a label, a button, and also a text box. That's a little bit out of order. Typically I do button, label, text box, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and drag this label to the upper left-hand corner. I don't like the font size, so I'm going to take the size property. I'm going to change that to 12 points within the font. And what I'm going to do is go to the text property and type length side A colon, and then that's going to give me the opportunity to enter a value. But before I do that, let me change this text box size to 12 points. Then I can go ahead and place that into here. I'm looking for that magenta underline with the little blue guide on the left hand side. That looks good. Let me open this up a little bit. Pretty good. I'm going to select these two, copy and paste, which is Control-C, Control-V as in Victor. Put that into the position. I'm going to change this length side A into length side B. So let me just click here, get rid of that, type in the letter B. That looks great. And then what I'm going to do is to place a line here, and then underneath that there's going to be a label that says hypotenuse with an actual label here. So I'll just take this guy over here, copy and paste this label. Let me change that text to hypotenuse. And actually I should put a colon after that if I want to be consistent. And then I'll move this over here, something like that. Let's see, right there, looks good. And then I'm going to place another label over here. I'll just take this label right here, copy and paste it, which is Control-C, Control-V as in Victor. And I'm going to say auto size false because I want to be able to resize this thing. Border style fixed single is fine. And let's make this thing so it's the same height. Actually, maybe I should make it the same size as this button right here. So remember, source, destination. Select the source, hold down shift, select the destination. And then is it this guy that means? Yeah, here it is, make same size. You know, I always forget what these stand for, so I have to hover on top of them. And there it is, make same size. Let me go ahead and click that guy. So now it's the same size as the button. Let me go ahead and move that into position. You know how I like that magenta underline right there, so that means it's at the same level. The text in this label is as the same level, I should say, as the hypotenuse label. And let me get rid of the text here. So I'll go to the text property, double click, get rid of that by hitting backspace. And now I've got this. Let me go ahead and place a line right here. In fact, I can simply use this guy right here. Copy and paste. Let me go ahead and just move this into position. So somewhere in the middle like that. And I'm going to have to move this over here. That's pretty good. The blue line's on the far right side, on the far left side, I should say. Now this one is on the far right side. I can only close this up so much. So that means I have to go to the size property, and I have to change that height to 2. So I'll type in the number 2. That looks pretty good. And maybe I should move this up a little higher. So let me select these two. I'm using the up arrow on my keyboard. I'm just eyeballing it. That looks pretty good. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on this button because I want to be able to resize this button. I want to place a label that occupies this area over here. Not a label, rather, an image box. And so you look over here. I said image box. That's not correct. It's here it is, picture box. Let me take a quick drink real fast here. There we go. All right, so picture box. I'm going to drag and drop that over here. And let me just go ahead and give this thing a temporary size by sizing it to about right there, and maybe just down to the bottom part of the label like that. And maybe I'll have to open it up a little bit. And my intention is to put a picture in here. Well, what picture is that? Well, let's go back over here to Microsoft Edge, and as I mentioned before, in Google, I did a Google search for Pythagorean triangle, and let me go ahead and click on this image. That looks good to me. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to save this picture as, and so I'll save picture as, and let's see here. Let's go ahead and save it to my pictures. So let's say pictures over here. This one says Pythagorean theorem. Let me change that here. It's a GIF file. I'd rather save this as a PNG file. You know, I'm kind of favorable to PNG files here. So maybe I should do a quick search like this. First of all, I'll go over here, and then for my images, let me see if I can refine this. So tools, and then color, and let's make it transparent, right? So that means that it's going to look for PNG images, and I think that's what this is going to be. So let me select that. Yep, the background is transparent. Let's view that image. That looks pretty good. I'm going to right click on that and save picture as, and I'll save that to the pictures folder. It says GIF. That's fine. I can use GIF images. And let's see here. So in my pictures, actually, is that my pictures? I had another over here, pictures in Microsoft Windows. That's fine. I don't care. Let me go ahead and type in a name for this. We'll say right triangle, and press enter to save. Let me switch back over here to Visual Studio, and I'm going to insert that picture. All right, so how do I do that? Well, first of all, with the picture box selected, as you can see here, you'll notice over here that I'm looking for an image, right? This is the picture box, and I need that image. And so if I click on the ellipsis button, then I'm going to click on local resource. I'm looking for a resource in my computer's hard drive. And so let me go ahead and import that into my project. Well, I saved everything onto the pictures folder. And so let's see if I can find that. Here it is, right triangle. In fact, that's today's date right here. So let me go ahead and double click this guy. There it is. I love it. Click OK, and there's my image. Now, the way that the image is stored or displayed on the screen is relative to the size mode. So right now we're in normal. Let's see what stretch image looks like. Pretty interesting, as you can see over here. And let's see what auto size does. Okay, so basically it's just auto sizing the entire picture box. What does center image do? So if I resize this, you can see it centers the image. And what does zoom do? Okay, so it actually changes it, so no matter what size this is, as you can see, it's going to zoom. I don't know. That looks pretty good right there, I think. I'll just leave it like that. Okay, well, now that I have that picture box, and that way the user can look at this and see clearly what it is that side A, side B, and side C represent, let me go ahead and click a button and resize this so it takes up the entire width of everything. So something like this. Then we reduce the size. I don't like that font property, or specifically the size property. I'm going to type in 12. That's better. Let me go over here to the text property, and I'll just simply type in submit. Submit. Okay, so I have this button ready to go. I think that looks good. Let's reduce the size of the form to something like this. I don't want minimize or maximize, so I'll just simply double click maximize box, double click minimize box, and we don't want form 1. This is going to be the hypotenuse calculator. So instead of form 1, we'll say hypotenuse calculator. Okay, I think we're done, at least in terms of placing the items on the screen, but we've got to give names to all these items. So what I'll do is I'll name this text box, and you know that this is going to be a text box, which means it starts at txt, and we'll just simply say side A, which means that this is going to be txt side B. And then we have the hypotenuse, so I'll just simply select that, and that's going to be LBL, hypotenuse. Okay, and then of course we have our submit button, so that's going to be BTN submit. Let me save my work. I don't need the toolbox anymore. Let me just double check my work in terms of the names. Let's see here. That's txt side A, txt side B. That's LBL hypotenuse. This is BT and submit. Now I'm not even going to bother giving this a name. I mean, it has a name. It's called Picture Box 1. If I did, I could call it PCT and then whatever I want, but this isn't going to change programmatically, just like these labels over here aren't going to change. So I can just leave it as is, and that's fine. Let me go ahead and save my work. Okay, and now I'm ready to enter the code. So I'm going to double click on the submit button, and let's go ahead and enter the code. Well, you know that the first thing I like to do is to type in my comments, specifically declarations, get user input, calculation, and of course output. In terms of the declarations, ask yourself, what is it that the user has to give to you, and what is it that you're going to give back to the user? Well, in this case, clearly the user has to give us side A and side B, and then we can give them the hypotenuse, which is side C. All right, so we're going to enter a double side A length, and the reason why I declare a double is because I don't know if the user is going to give me a number with a decimal point, such as 4.5 or 6.3. And so a double encompasses all of those potential real numbers, and it can also handle the whole numbers, like the famous 3, 4, 5 triangle, say, for example. All right, so we'll say double side B length, and then finally hypotenuse. All right, so I have the three variables that I'm going to be using in my program. And let's go to the get user input section. For side A, let's go ahead and obtain that by first converting to a double whatever is inside of the txt side A text box. So let me hit tab.te for text, and then let me put a semicolon out there. Let's do the same thing for side B, length, convert dot to double whatever is txt, the side B text box. So let me hit tab.text. All right, so I've taken the text from these text boxes, converted them to a double, and then assigned them to the variables side A and side B. And then we're ready to perform a calculation. So I can say hypotenuse. And before I continue here, maybe I should do a quick web search here for the Pythagorean theorem. So let me just type in Pythagorean theorem, and let's see what comes up. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared. Oh, that's a weird way because the hypotenuse is A. Typically the hypotenuse is C. Let's see if I can click on this guy. I think I see the correct formula over here. Yep, that's it. So it's A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And then, of course, if I take the square root of both sides, C, which is the hypotenuse, is going to be the square root of A squared plus B squared. So the first thing that I need to do is get the square root down. And so let me go back over here, and I'll type math.sqrt. Let me open and close the parentheses, put the semicolon, and put my cursor right back in there. So the square root function does exactly that. If I said, what's the square root of 4? The answer would come back 2. What's the square root of 9? The answer would come back 3. And so what we're doing is we're getting that square root, because if I put a square root over here and a square root over here, I need the square root of A squared. So let's take care of that. The way that we can take care of A squared is use math.pow. Close my parens. Let's put the cursor right back in there. And that's going to be A squared. Well, I have side A length. So that's going to be side A length, comma, 2.0 because it's squared. After that, you'll see that I need the plus symbol. Okay, so let me put my cursor out here, plus, and then it's going to be B squared. And so that means math.pow, open and close parens. Let's put the cursor right back in there. And as you can see here, that's going to be B squared. So that's going to be side B length, comma, 2.0, and then that's going to take care of everything. So you see how I like to enter the open and close parentheses. That way I don't get into problems of balancing parens. Once I've established the open and close parentheses, I just move my cursor right back into that particular area, and then I don't have to worry about, did I close the parentheses correctly? It's just already taken care of for me. All right, so now that I've calculated the hypotenuse, I can now perform an output, which is LBL. there's my label, LBL hypotenuse. So let me hit tab.text. And what am I going to put into there? Well, I'm going to put the value of hypotenuse. Now, typically in the past, I've done this. I've said convert.toString, and then we can display the result of the hypotenuse. Okay. Let me show you something else that you can do in terms of formatting your strings. Let me comment this out. Certainly this is acceptable. Something else that you can do is as follows. You can say hypotenuse, which of course is a double, dot toString, open close parentheses, put that semicolon. Let's put our cursor right back into there. Now, one of the things that I can do is to determine the number of digits that are displayed within the label. And I can do that with a fixed number of digits, specifically 2 numbers after the decimal point. That's what that F2 means. Let's run the program and see what it looks like. So if I click Start, and let's start off with that famous 3, 4, 5 triangle. So 3, 4, and notice what happens. 2 numbers after the decimal point because of that the F2. Let's see what happens if I change this to F3. So I change that to F3. Again, let's just type in that famous 3, 4, 5 triangle, and notice 3 numbers after the decimal point. All right, so now you know how to format data. If you want a certain number of numbers after the decimal point, you just use the fixed and then whatever the number is that you want to represent in terms of the number of decimals, the number of digits, I should say, after the decimal point. Let me comment this out and comment this, and let's just see what happened if we didn't use this approach. We'll use our same old approach of convert.toString. If I press Start, again, let me hit 3, 4, and it looks like it just simply displays 5 by itself. So it automatically did that for me. If you want more control in terms of the number of digits after the decimal point, that's where this approach comes in. The name of the variable, .toString, and then you can control how to do that. And we're going to be taking a look at some other formats like C for currency, P for percent, E for exponential form. We have all kinds of different options that are available. All right, and that's it. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.